I'm telling you, Tahani's out to get me.
What are you talking about?
This note was slipped under my door yesterday. It has to be Tahani. She just said to me, I want to feel like I truly belong here. Well, where have I seen the word belong recently? Oh yeah, kaplow.
I really don't think she's the type of person who would write this.
She is that kind of person, and she did write it. She wants everybody to think she's such a perfect princess just because she's tall and glamorous and has cappuccino skin and curves everywhere. And now I'm complimenting her and kind of turned on. The point is, she straight up sucks, bro.
Steven, our friendship tree is on fire. What are we gonna do? It's burning. It's the flames are engulfing.
Quick, Zach, come into my arms. Embrace me in your ample bosom.
You say that, but the only reason it's on fire is because one of us was talking dirty about the other one. And it wasn't me, so what the fuck have you been saying about me behind my back today?
You've read my blog, Zach. You know the kind of stuff that comes out of from my fingertips to the internet's mouths.
Sure, I guess, but all that after you say to me and you want me to come on your bosom? I don't think so.
Listen, my bosom is always welcome for you, Zach.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome. We're going to dive once again into the time knife with your good pals. Hi, everybody. I'm Zach.
Hi, I'm Steven, and I have what the doctors call directional insanity. So I'm going to do my best to make my way through this episode, but we'll see.
I'm really glad to be here again to talk about the third chapter of The Good Place with my good friend, Steven. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad you've all joined us today. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, pal? I'm happy to be here.
I'm also really glad to be here, doing this show, watching The Good Place, and then seeing your face to talk about it, to laugh about it together. It brings me a lot of joy. It certainly brings me a lot of joy.
Well, that's good, Zach. You know, as long as I'm helping those less fortunate than I, then I can rest easy at night.
Yeah, the tax
I don't know how
bracket
Zach's gotten so many
Steven
Mako
is
issues,
in
but
would surprise you. Everybody, I'm filled with joy just to be here to talk to you about The Good Place, but there are a handful of people that make me feel just a little bit better than the regular average Joe listener, and that's our
superior
$10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Those people are Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, Emmy Azrael, and Autumn Marsh. Thank you very much to all those people. A couple new names if you're a keen ear audience, and if you'd like to keep that list growing, if you want your name on it, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Get shout outs from us on our show every week and all the extra content we do over there. It's fun. What are you going to do? Stop complaining. It's fun.
It's fun.
Just have some fun already.
Just have some fun. Come on. No stomach aches.
So what's going on with you since we last met in this queerum? What's going on? What's new?
You know, just been preparing for some events at my job. We have a big charity event every year called Dancing with Chicago Celebrities. So getting ready for that. I might have a celebrity this year. I'm working on getting a
Is it going to be one of the Bears? That's all I can think of as far as Chicago celebrities go.
Not
Is
mine.
it someone from one of the Chicago TV shows? That'd be cool. Chicago Fire, Chicago PD.
Yeah, that's generally the kind of people we get. We also get local like news people do it a lot of the time. That's always fun because, you know, then you get to be on the news with them and like do stuff. But I'm working on getting a drag queen that was on RuPaul's Drag Race from Chicago.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Who?
Because they attended
Can you tell us
event
who, or do you want to
year.
keep it under wraps until it happens?
I'll keep it under wraps for now, just in case it doesn't
That's
happen.
super
so I'm not
exciting. If
embarrassed.
that's something that happens,
That'd be like a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
So hopefully that all works out. They're interested in it, but it's tough to pin them down because they're busy. So getting ready for that, getting ready for competition season. You know, I compete usually once every couple months at least. So I've got something coming up in February and one in March that are both pretty exciting. So, you know, just getting ready and rearing to go. Something kind of fun. Zach, you like movies.
And
we're
how?
doing an event where the theme is movie magic, so all the music's going to be from different movies. And Danny and I are putting together a routine where, have you ever seen the Goofy movie?
Of course, you're doing is it
Powerline?
Powerline.
Powerline. We're going to do the Powerline dance and get the costumes and everything.
Good
so
for
we're
you. That
learning
sounds
and-
fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Let's see. Songs from movies. I want to go. I feel like Schindler's List had a tune in there somewhere.
I'm sure there's got to be something I
there's
can
a
use.
part-
Get the people going.
In that movie, Tar,
Mm-hmm.
where she finds out they're selling her apartment and she doesn't want them to, and she goes around the apartment yelling, "Apartment for sale, apartment for sale," and sings a whole song that she makes up about it. I would do that. I'd dance to that.
I'll
To
put that
Apartment
in
for
the
Sale
program
from Tar.
for you.
I'll
Make
be
your
there.
way
I'll
up
do
to
it.
Chicago. Good. And now with a special performance, special guest we have today, performing "Apartment for Sale," solo, Zachary Pruitt.
I come on stage fully nude. We start
Apartment
off
for sale.
well, what do you say? Do you want to get into the good place, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
Is there anything new with you? What's going on in your
I
life?
was clearly deflecting.
Come on,
because
Zach.
I
What's
didn't
the
have
scoop?
anything to say.
What's
You-
exciting? What sort of exciting
you know
things
me,
have
if I
happened?
had something to say, I would have said it long before you finished what you were saying.
That's fair.
I was
There really must be
deflecting.
nothing going
I
on.
was
You
moving
were
on.
dead silent.
Well, no, I've been watching movies every night and working, and I haven't really seen anything crazy that I'd like to talk about. I was kind of disappointed in The Fabelmans. I'd have that conversation if you want, but do you think anybody here right now really gives a shit about
The
how
Fabelmans?
disappointed in The Fabelmans I was?
No.
Yeah, so like I said, well, hey, buddy, is there anything you want to talk about?
No,
Or
I
do you
think
wanna
it's
get into
time
the good
to
place?
jump right in, Zach.
Well, I did have a couple of things really important going on in my life right now.
No,
that I
that's
thought I'd
okay.
mention. Well, when this
all the
podcast
time we've got
airs,
for today, Zach.
we'll already know who was Oscar nominated. I'm excited to find out about that. I'm envious of Zach today when the podcast comes out
Yeah.
versus Zach now, because that guy's got a lot going on.
Yeah, he's a busy bee.
Right now, I'm fucked. I'm probably at the lowest point of my entire life in this moment. But a couple weeks from now, post Oscar nominations, it's
You'll be
looking
better.
up. Yeah,
It's got to get better.
it's got to. It has to.
It will
right?
get better.
Okay. Well, we're here to talk about Chapter 3 of The Good Place. This episode is called Tahani Al-Jamil.
Congratulations,
Worth a round of
beautiful.
applause. Sure, exactly. Thank you. You flirt, Steven. This episode was directed by a big name. Her name's Beth McCarthy Miller. Other episodes of The Good Place she directed
That is a
were...
big name.
Thanks. Wait, I don't know why I said thanks, but
Three
thanks.
of them.
She directed episodes of The Good Place, Existential Crisis, The Snowplow, A Fractured Inheritance, Employee of the Baramy, and Help As Other People. But her
Nice.
directing career is insane. Her IMDb has like 160 something director's
Wow.
credits. So I'm about to list a lot of things, and compared to how big her list is, you'll see how much I narrowed it down. She
Wow.
did a bunch of music directing. She directed projects for REM, Eric Clapton, Janet Jackson, Nirvana,
Wow.
the Eagles, Stone Temple Pilots. She directed one of the MTV Music Awards. She's directed several Super Bowl halftime shows.
Wow.
And then aside from that huge achievement, she directed the TV filming of the Legally Blonde musical. Did you ever
Holy
watch
shit.
that? She directed that. She directed 23 episodes of 30 Rock.
Nice.
She directed one of the only good episodes from season 4 of Community, Basic Human Anatomy.
Yeah.
She did 5 episodes of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 23 episodes of Modern Family, and this next one I haven't seen, but the number's staggering. She's directed 64 episodes of Bob Hart's Abby Shola.
Oh, wow.
Do you know that
Okay.
show?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it, though.
I think as long as that show's been on, I feel like that's about every episode.
Yeah.
I feel like she's probably directed every episode of that show, which is crazy. So yeah, Beth McCarthy Miller. She directed this episode and several
Quite the
others.
CV.
Not as long of a list, but still impressive. It was written by Aisha. I'm gonna butcher this last name. I'm so sorry. Muharrar. It's Muharrar. How do you say it? Muharrar.
Muharrar. This is double R, so you got to roll it.
Aisha, come on the show. Tell us how to roll it. She or they, I don't even know, but they wrote this episode and one other episode of The Good Place, Chillaxing, and they were a writer for 14 episodes of Parks and Recreation.
Nice, good show.
Another Mike
Schur
project.
Mm-hmm. Does he prefer Michael Schur?
It is Michael Schur, but people in the know, people that go back a few years, we call him Mike.
Because I've heard it Mike Schur leading up to this.
I noticed for the first couple episodes he was credited Michael Schur.
Yeah, but that's weird, right?
But when people talk about him, it's Mike Schur. But I feel like you're probably saying that off of like interviews of people talking about working with him. They say my friend Mike Schur.
That's probably true.
But maybe when it's, I don't know, as far as credits go, we'll have to look for that.
I feel like whenever I see like stuff from people that were on his shows, they call him
Mikey Boy. That's what I call him when I run
Come on, Micah.
I would love if we ever, for some weird reason, got the chance to chat with him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the episode originally aired September 22nd, 2016. And that's all for the precursor info. So now that we've got that out of the way, everyone, it's time for one of my favorite moments of the week. We're going to find out.
Oh my God, what is it, Zach?
Steven, watch the episode this week.
Watch the episode this week. Oh, wait, hold on. Can you do that again? I have a better one.
Okay. I'm going to keep you asking for another one so it makes you look bad and makes me look good and prepared, okay?
Understood.
All right. If I had messed up, I'd cut it clean out. Everyone, it's time to find out. Did Steven watch the episode this week? What makes that one better? Because you were trying to sound like Tahani?
Well, no, I was doing more of a riff on Eleanor's impression of Tahani, because Eleanor sounded like Julie Andrews, so I was sounding like me trying to sound like Eleanor, trying to sound like Tahani, but really sounding like Julie Andrews.
Yeah, the explanation made it a lot funnier. Everyone, you know the segment. It's one of my favorites that we do around here. The episode is Tahani, Al-Jamil. Steven, you're going to have 20 seconds to relate to me and our audience everything you can recall that happened in this week's episode, after which I'll be giving you a grade, letting you know how I think you did. How you feeling about this one?
Honestly, Zach, the entire time I was watching the episode, I was like anxious about this because I feel like it's hard to say everything I want to say about this episode in 20 seconds, which I guess is the point.
Well, luckily we do a podcast that runs a little over an hour where we'll get to talk about everything we want from that episode.
So, but I want to make you proud of me. I want our love fern to grow strong. I want our bush to stop burning because it's still engulfed.
Yeah, it's really, I should take it outside. It shouldn't be in my home.
It's getting toasty in here.
Fire hazard because it's on fire.
There's
it's not
a lot
fire
of smoke.
Hazard. It's a fire.
It is. It's fire. It's active fire. But you know what? We're gonna keep trucking along.
Yeah.
Love ya.
Love you too.
I think I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my best.
You think you're gonna try?
I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it, Zach. You know what? Let's play the game. Let's do it. I agree
I've
to your
decided
terms.
I'm gonna let you do it this week. All right. You've got 20 seconds on the clock. On go. You'll begin. 3, 2, 1, go.
Eleanor's still in Chidi's ethics class, but she's so stressed about the note that she got under the door. She thinks it was Tahani, so she's going to spy on Tahani all day and catch her slip and get some dirt on her. Meanwhile, Chidi goes with Michael because Michael's going to find a new hobby for Chidi, so he stops stressing about his paper. But all along, Chidi is stressed, so he's going to write a new paper, and Michael's going to be his advisor. And Eleanor found out that Tahani's really nice, but someone...
I think you did a pretty excellent job. There's a couple of things that you left out. You didn't say anything
I really
about
wanted to get the end of the episode.
the different shades of Janet. We didn't get that.
Didn't get that.
We didn't get Eleanor becoming Michael's assistant.
Yeah.
And which is the end of the episode. But then, of course, we can't get too spoilery with it yet because we just get a wisp of it.
Yeah.
But the very end of the episode, when we find out Jianyu can talk and is clearly a different person than we expected him to be so far. But I think you got a lot of really great detail. There were several moments where you said something and I was like, yes, quiet, and like checking it off the list. Seeing as I would only give an A+ if you did perfect.
Yeah.
So an A is like the best of the best. So this is an A-.
Thank you so much, Zach. I'm very happy with what I've received.
Really, really good, but like near perfect is A,
Yeah.
And then beyond perfect would be the very rare A+. So I think an A-, even though the minus sounds harsh, is fair.
But it's okay. Because I think of an A-, like it's still better than a B+. I'm not the Annie Edison mindset
Absolutely.
where
Way
an
better
A-
than a
is a
B+.
big fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten anything in the A category across our entire podcasting venture?
Once.
Once? Okay. Good job. You should be proud.
Thank you.
And
Dude, already,
let's-
you know, in the third episode of this show, I'm up that high. But in Community, of the 100 and something episodes we did, I think I got an A- once.
By the third episode of Community, we had long given up. This is new. This is fresh. We're trying this time, baby.
Hey, yo!
Let's move on into some trivia. Let's see if the success you just earned will move forward. I've got quite a few questions.
I've got 5
8.
for you this week.
I've got 8. Well, let's go. Let's do 5 back and forth, and then I'll rapid fire you at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
What
Why don't you
color-
go first?
I was trying to.
Go for it, Zach. You go first.
What
you know what?
Oh my
Age
God,
before
it's one of
beauty.
these
You
again,
take
isn't
it. Birthday boy.
What color are the flowers on Tahani's plant?
White.
Good job.
Thank you. What philosophers were on Chidi's chalkboard at the beginning of the episode?
Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
Correct.
Because spa, that's how you remember the order that they came in. Lily said that when we watched it.
Wow.
Like Socrates begat Plato. Plato. That's a killer joke in the beginning. When who died and left Aristotle
literally
in
Plato.
charge? Plato. What do we get of the title of Chidi's book?
Okay, this is one of my questions. But I'm gonna
I saw
see
you
how much
glance
I can
already. Do what you
do
can.
without it. Who
Wow.
are we? Why are we? Something like that. The ethics in a modern world. I botched it, but it's who are we and who are we not? Practical ethics and their application in the modern world. A treatise on the, and then he gets
Yeah, but
cut
you're
off.
missing a couple things. You said the beginning actually wrong because it's who we are and who we are not.
Oh, I have that written. I just read it wrong. Who we
Colon.
are and who we are not.
The funniest part is he says practical
Colon.
ethics and their application in the modern treatise, semicolon, a treatise on, but you got the majority once
Yeah.
you cheated. That was bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. Your turn.
Well, you know this one, but I'll ask it anyway.
Okay.
Which philosophers were a student of another, and who were they a student to?
Well, like we just said, it started with Socrates, who was the teacher of Plato.
I don't give a shit who they taught. Tell me who was who he was
I'm
a student
confused.
of.
That's what I was doing.
Nope. You were telling me who his student
Plato
was.
is Socrates' student.
Thank you.
Aristotle is Plato's student.
Thanks, Zach. It's all I goddamn asked for.
And
Don't-
because I'm a little baby child, every time I say Plato, I think Play-Doh.
Nice. Every time I say Socrates, I think of him banging kids.
That shows you the difference between the two of us. My next one for you. What sporting team does Janet say all former members of are in the bad place?
That would be the Portland Trailblazers. That was funny. Let's see. That's that one. What are pears a symbol of in Chinese culture?
Oh, I don't remember because they had to be thrown in the trash, obviously. But I don't remember the specific reasoning other than, like, they're disrespectful.
Ooh.
Just say it.
Bad luck is what they are a sign of, according
okay.
to Tahani.
Where was Tahani born, raised, and schooled?
Born in Pakistan. Raised in... Does she say the country or a city here? She says a city, right?
I'm not here to help you.
Raised in
Take your
London,
guess.
schooled in Paris?
Correct.
Okay, nice.
3 for
Because it was
3.
confusing because she went country, then city. So,
Sure.
I get it. Name me a Pakistani city, Zach.
Urdu?
I don't know.
That's the language.
Maybe. Other than stealing, what other kindergarten rule does Chidi mention?
What? Do I need to teach you not to throw sand?
Well, but it's great for putting out a vodka fire. Why do you know that?
How many pages is Chidi's manuscript?
3,600.
That's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 2 Stephen Kings.
Yeah, that's a lot of pages. All right, Zach, that's all I got. Rapid fire at me.
Okay. You've done fairly well. I think I've done.
Thanks. You've done a good
really
job
well,
too,
right?
Yeah.
Did I miss any? Did I miss any?
Yeah,
of yours?
the pairs.
Okay. I've
But
got
to
3
be
for
fair,
you.
you answered one
quick.
of them before I asked it, and the other one you had before I could ask it.
Let's not
so.
take away from my victory. You got yours. Now give me mine. By God. Okay. How many steps are in Tahani's skincare regimen?
12, her Korean skincare regimen. 12
Who
steps.
did the foreword on Tahani's diary?
I remember taking note of it. I remember
Yeah.
always liking this joke and thinking it was hilarious that she had a foreword, but I don't remember the names. There were 2 people.
Malala
Malala.
and Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue. That's the one that makes me laugh extra.
And final question, what is the canceled coffee shop named?
Dylan's Coffee?
No. Another
Danny?
white guy name.
Danny's Coffee?
No.
Dustin's?
Stick away from the D thing.
Charlie?
Andy's Coffee. It was
Andy's Coffee.
I
Sorry,
think we
this
both
is
had
delay.
a decent showing today on both segments. I don't think we did too bad.
I think we did a great job, Zach, other than the fact that I just whacked my microphone. But we did a great job today, Zach. Proud of us, proud of you.
Well, we'll hear from our listeners later on in the program, but if you would like to help us out with the trivia segment, send us in trivia to future episodes over at timeknifepod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at timeknifepod, where we'll tweet out when we need trivia for specific episodes if you really want to keep up to date. And let's move on into the next thing. Do we just need to talk about the episode?
Let's talk about the episode. Let's do it.
All right.
Tahani Al-Jamil.
3rd episode, a big establishing episode. What do you think?
I really enjoyed this episode, Zach. I remember, this was kind of the episode where we get to jump into the pace of the story now. Eleanor's
so?
here. We have the kind of 2-part start to the show. And now we're in the thick of it. Everyone's kind of, Chidi's doing his own thing. Eleanor's doing her own thing this episode. They're not linked at the hip for the entire time, which I think gives us a chance to see both characters for a little bit more who they are. We get a lot of Tahani.
Yeah.
And
She's
unfortunately
really funny
for
in this
Eleanor, Tahani is great.
Incredible.
She's so charming. She's so kind and generous. I love Tahani.
This episode does a lot. It gives Tahani a lot of points. She's really funny in this episode. And, this being named after her, I thought it was going to be the first episode where we get flashbacks of her family.
I did too, but we didn't.
But she's really good in this episode. It's interesting that you say that about the story, because I kind of feel like, for me, remembering this show as being slap, bang, boom into each plot point, this episode really takes its time to establish character dynamics.
Yeah.
Something I was really impressed in, we'll get into the episode in a second, but skipping way ahead, the conversation that Tahani has about how disappointed she is in her matching with Jianyu is the type of subtext that we normally ponder upon, literally told in an episode in a really good way. There's great character development in this episode for everybody. Chidi, we learn a lot more about. We even learn more about Eleanor, who we've learned a lot about throughout the series so far. We learn more about Janet. It's a phenomenal Janet episode.
Darcy Carden is a star at all moments of time.
I think as much as the second episode can kind of feel like, by proxy, the second half of the first episode, this feels like a really good second episode.
Yeah.
It feels like a really good... There's forward momentum, but we're still taking time to learn, now that we've met these characters, what are they like together and how do they bounce off of one another. And it's a lot of fun discovery in this episode because of it.
I think a show that has so many characters and we're still being introduced to more that we'll come to know and love, it's really fascinating to see how different pairings of the characters work. Like this one, we get Eleanor and Tahani on one end, and then we have Chidi, Michael, and Janet on the other. And I think that those pairings are different than the ones we were exposed to early on, and there's a totally different dynamic between them. And I think especially Michael and Chidi is really fascinating to me, and I love getting to see that for the first time here.
I feel like Michael, this is the first time we've seen him be, I guess other than in his dog kicking moment, this is a moment where Michael's mean to Chidi.
He's kind of,
condescending. he's what, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is,
I
but
think
he talks
he
down
pities
to Chidi
Chidi a lot.
Sure.
Like he's like, oh, look at this pitiful guy that couldn't write his paper, especially after Michael reads it, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, let's get into the episode. It starts with a philosophy class. We are going to do a Chidi's philosophy class segment this week, but it's not really about what's mentioned in this moment because it's kind of just a little chalkboard intro classroom thing. They don't really dive too deep into philosophy in this segment, but the jokes about Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are really funny if you're in the know. This is the type of show that pays off having listened to history teachers in school, because there are jokes here that I know that my 9th grade history teacher would love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a line that Chidi has in this opening kind of scene where Eleanor is not really paying attention, and he's like, "You've made the insane choice to ignore someone who is literally trying to save you from eternal damnation." And just how flustered and absolutely just like shocked that Chidi is, that he's like, "I'm literally trying to keep you here and you're choosing to not pay attention." And it speaks a lot to both of their characters.
Well, William Jackson Harper is so good. He's got the voice so down. He's Chidi, he just knows how Chidi speaks, and his line delivery is so confident that it mirrors Kristen Bell really well, because obviously she knows exactly what she's doing. And even though this episode is going to kind of separate Chidi and Eleanor, it kind of cements how already strong of a tight-knit unit they kind of are. Together in the beginning, they're kind of groping. Well, that's a line in there when she's like, "We're just kissing, we're groping in here." What I meant was they're just griping with one another in the beginning. And then later on, they kind of come to each other to talk each other up and to help each other out. So even in an episode that keeps them separate and gives them other people to hang out with, their bond strengthens.
Yeah.
So Tahani shows up with a housewarming plant. That's when, I don't know, Eleanor, after the knock on the door, does "we're just kissing, we're just groping in here."
Yeah.
And Chidi's like, why do you have to say that? Which I thought was a really funny moment.
Yeah,
this show, as good as the writing and jokes are, sometimes it's just the smallest moments that make me laugh harder than anything else. The acting choices, the character choices. Skipping ahead already, the part where Michael presents a hat for Chidi to put on. He's like in the middle of a sentence and he says hat, and then he takes the hat. Stuff like that's so funny. Okay, so Tahani brings the plant and leaves. It's just a nice quick gesture. They go back and forth a little bit, and this brings up what we've already seen so much, is that Eleanor can't stand how nice and likable Tahani is, and Tahani has done nothing but maybe be boisterous, but has done nothing other than help the public, help the people that she's around.
Now, are there any people in your life, Zach, or have there been, who are just so nice that you think it can't possibly be real, and you really question their authenticity?
I am a little bit instantly, I'm not sure about people who just radiate niceness with no complications underneath. Sure, nice people are nice people. I genuinely think of you as one of the nicest people that I know. But there's more personality to you than that. Yeah. Growing up in the church, I have been so surrounded by people who present to be the kindest, most giving person you'd ever know. And all you ever see from them is that. But there's got to be a give. Somewhere, somehow, they've got to be a monster underneath it, because I know I am, so they've got to be too. What do you think?
Well, I have kind of been the person before who, when people have met me, they think that I'm
too nice.
Yeah, they think that it's inauthentic, especially, if people are a little bit more jagged themselves. I can be a little bit much on first meet sometimes, because I am very bubbly and
loud,
human puppy-ish sometimes, and I think that I do genuinely get really happy doing things I enjoy doing. So if you find me in that element, I'm gonna be
I feel like you go into a room full of people, like I could leave this room full of people being close friends with everybody that's in here. And some people are like, "Who's this guy? Why are you trying to talk to me and like me?" I don't know. Is it important to you that people like you?
Not as much as it used to be. I used to care, but I think, and this is not to sound like, I don't know, conceited or anything, but I think I haven't. It was easy for me to make friends with people of different backgrounds or things. I think because I have a lot of different interests, some are very popular, some are not. I think it's been easy for me to relate to people. But it is frustrating if I feel like there's somebody who I couldn't, if I wanted to, get along with, I guess.
Someone
but
that
I don't
you
really, I
like
don't care as
and
much.
you
what people
want
think.
to hang out with them, but you just feel like they don't want to back.
Yeah.
Like, well, what could it possibly be? It's me. I'm Stephen Baker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've gotten to the point where if someone doesn't like me, I can typically understand why and also see likewise, well, there's a reason why we don't gel. I only want to be around people that, I mean, I can be around people that challenge me and that I argue with at times, but I want to be around people that I don't have to worry about if they like me or not.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm in a place where my circle is small, but it's people that I do not have to worry about, and that's really great.
Totally.
I really like the moment when Eleanor is complaining, the back and forth Eleanor and Chidi have where it ends with Chidi saying, well, yeah, that's what everybody wants everybody to do. Just treat them with kindness and like a person.
What, she thinks being nice to me is going to make me be nice to her? And he's like, well, yeah, that's what everyone wants.
The episode doesn't waste much time to get into the B plot, which is really just kind of characters hanging around in the world, and we get to know this area a little better, where Michael is meeting with Chidi and Janet is around. We'll have to talk about all the different iterations of Janet we get in this episode.
Yeah.
Because this is the episode where truly Janet comes to life, and we see that through the guidance of Michael, this Janet can become something different than just the ever-present question answerer. She can be given personality, and then the line between given personality and personality becomes thin. We see that in this episode, and it starts with Janet's giving off a bunch of catchphrases to be easygoing.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Not if I see you first. Where's the beef?
I don't know.
Hump day.
I think that Janet's so funny because it's like she Googled what are friendly phrases or
just learned every single friendly phrase that ever existed real fast and said them all without any human touch of when to say things. That's really funny.
So funny.
We learn a lot about Chidi in this episode and about how he spent a lot of his life on Earth trying to perfect this book that was like his treatise. He calls it his treatise in the title. That's just everything that he has learned and everything that he has to contribute to philosophy, to the world, is in this book, and it was his life's work, and he's really proud of it. And now that he's here, and as Michael states, in a place where all of those questions already have answers, you're here, you're in the good place. What is Chidi's life going to be now? And a big part of that is Michael suggesting, let's find you a hobby. And it's just this really fun scenario for this episode. It shows us more of Chidi, lets him interact with other people, and Ted Danson and Darcy Carden are so funny in all of their moments.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because these are all different hobbies that you wouldn't be able to do on Earth, so they should be great. Okay, you get to do this, you get to be in charge of this, you get to explore, and Chidi's all of that terrifies me. There's not one thing that I like, that you're about what you're offering me right now. And I think it just baffles Michael because he's, well, look at all these different things that we could do here. This ever expansive neighborhood is at your fingertips. And Chidi's like, oh.
I'm the worst possible person for that.
When he says he got lost on an escalator, Jesus Christ, that is so funny.
Okay, so while that's going on, Eleanor visits Tahani and Jianyu, and I really like the way the episode didn't have Eleanor explicitly say right away that she thinks Tahani is the person who wrote the note.
Yeah.
Before she goes over for the first time. So you can kind of figure that out for yourself. I thought that was a smart way to do that. She comes in. I really like how Tahani, all throughout this episode, is kind of complaining about Jianyu. We've sympathized for her in this situation because it's torturous for her to have this partner that she can't connect with or feels like she can't connect with.
But it's still subtle how they handle it because it's literally, oh, would you like some tea? And he's kind of well, I guess that nod means no, which tells you that she's living in a constant state of confusion because his responses are always just silent nods.
And everything
she's just got to figure it out.
See if Jianyu paints him out as this perfect dude. So you think that Tahani should be happy to be with someone so sophisticated, but she can't connect with him. And it's kind of similar to how Chidi must be feeling, knowing that his soulmate is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be someone else. That must be hard. The line that made me think about the way they handle Tahani's situation is when Eleanor asks if Jianyu's asleep. And she's like, there's really no way to tell. One time I thought he was dead, but remembered we're all dead. Such fun. And it's really funny, and it's told with that kindness and love that Tahani treats every situation with, but it's just a broken person behind it. And it's really fun to start to see that complexity. What's the word I'm looking for there?
Complexity.
No, I think it's complexicity.
Complexicity.
It's fun to see that starting to show in Tahani, who has kind of just been, like we talked about, the person who's just nice all the time and doesn't seem to have a crack in the facade. There's already a crack in this facade, and it's interesting to see. It's funny, Eleanor giving them pears.
It's a plant, just like your gift, but you can actually eat them. So maybe it's a better gift. Who's to say?
That's so kind. However, in Chinese culture, pears are actually a symbol of bad luck, and I wouldn't want to offend Jianyu, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to throw these in the garbage. But do come and sit down.
So Eleanor's trying to pick up on if Tahani wrote the note, and when Tahani uses the keyword belonging here, wants people to feel like they belong here, Eleanor agrees to go along with Tahani as she kind of scours the neighborhood and checks in on everyone. And that's where we leave that. Eleanor goes home and tells Chidi all this. Eleanor tells Chidi about the note, which she hadn't said yet, and says that she thinks it's Tahani, which Chidi is immediately like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And it's funny how Eleanor, trying to talk shit about Tahani, even she deep down knows that she's a good person worth celebrating.
She's so sweet and beautiful, and that skin and curves everywhere, and she's like, oh, damn, now I'm complimenting her.
And turned on.
Which starts one of my favorite runners throughout the entire show, which is how attracted to Tahani Eleanor is. And
Which makes a lot of sense because she's so drawn to her.
Yeah.
And she thinks it's... How many times have you been attracted to someone at first by thinking you're annoyed by them?
Yeah.
And then sometimes flirting is just jabbing back and forth. So sometimes when you just think someone is terrible, like you and I think of each other, it just brings
really
out the fire. And I like to see that in
passionate
Eleanor.
love.
And the way that they build up on that is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the concept that this brings up, that the tree is another one of the visual representations of Eleanor's mistakes in The Good Place? When she speaks negatively of Tahani, the tree begins to wilt. It begins to...
I like it. I think it's a cute,
so too.
plot device to be a tangible representation of their feelings towards each other, or if nothing else, their actions towards each other. And I think that is a cute little thing that they do that's very Good Place magic-y, and I like that.
It is Good Place magic-y. That's been the whole show so far, is Eleanor does something and the world punishes it for her visually and viscerally and physically on this plane. So I thought it was a good thing to add to the episode. I thought the CGI on the
pretty good
on the plant was pretty decent.
I think overall this show consistently does a better than it should, but not trying to be anything that it's not job with CGI. Because it uses it a fair amount throughout the show.
I think watching it this time so far is the first time I'm noticing in these early episodes the moments of CGI that look a little clunky.
But that was, 7 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. And I did not feel that way then. And I still think for a television sitcom on a network, having computer graphics like this is almost unheard of. They do it really, really well. Tahani and Eleanor are preparing for their day. Eleanor shows back up at their place, and I like when Tahani says, "Remember, Jianyu, it's Eleanor. She was the one with the offensive fruit." And through this moment, they talk a little bit. They kind of gripe more back and forth with each other. And we get the major Tahani name drop of this episode, that she once dated Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
I feel like it begs the question of, so Tahani was like 20-something at the time?
I was going to say
probably?
It had to be in her early 20s.
It's a funny joke that fits with the public discourse around him and his dating habits these days.
Yeah.
Because what? Is Leo?
25 is the cap.
Is Leo close to 50?
Yeah, he's in his 40s.
Yeah, so he would have been 40 when this came out, and I think Tahani is supposed to be like 30-ish or a few years older. So, yeah, 20s.
Hey-o!
I like the voice that Tahani gives Leonardo DiCaprio too. He's like, I own 9 houses. I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. It's pretty funny. But this triggers Eleanor into her flashback of this week, which brings up a conversation that I want to have later in Chidi's philosophy class that's deeply interesting to me. The idea that this coffee shop that Eleanor and her significant other at the time like to go to, the guy who runs it was filmed groping an applicant and is just very clearly a sex criminal.
Yeah.
And the show does a great job of putting a good place spin on it to still make it kind of silly. Like, I think it's kind of funny when the guy is like, I don't think your left reference is bigger than your right reference line is funny, but I like right after that when he's like, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so that is
and
what
that
we learn
actor
here.
that they have there, he always is really good at playing someone kind of sleazy or goofy, so he does a good job in that role.
He's literally on a show that I like called Crashing, where he plays like the guy that someone's wife cheats on him with and leaves him for. And he's like this new agey weirdo. Perfect casting for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it brings up the question of how Eleanor's boyfriend or significant other in this moment wants to stop going to this coffee shop and supporting it because of the actions that have been going on there. And we'll touch back on that a little bit later. Michael at this time is introducing Chidi into one of his possible things, which is cartography. And I really like all of the stuff here. The Chidi having directional insanity is so funny.
Yeah, getting lost on the escalator, being just terrified of adventure, going the wrong way when they try and go back to the neighborhood. It's so funny.
One of my favorite lines in the whole episode is Janet's Christopher Columbus fun fact.
Your neighborhood stretches way beyond what you've already seen, and you can map it, revealing all of the mysteries like an explorer.
I see how that might be fun. But exploring makes me nervous. I have what doctors call directional insanity. I once got lost on an escalator. So, not exactly Christopher Columbus.
Fun fact, Columbus is in the bad place because of all the raping, slave trade, and genocide.
That's been well known that everybody should hate him for a long time.
Yeah.
But the public reckoning was kind of around or after this time when it became like a big taboo topic again. So it was funny for Janet to go, fun fact, Christopher Columbus is in the bad place for all the rapes. It was a really funny moment, and it makes me laugh every time. And the Portland Trailblazers, too. They're all in the
That one's
bad
really
place.
funny, too.
So Eleanor continues to try to get dirt on Tahani, but just isn't getting anything, just learning more and more great things about her. She was a model, a museum curator, an it girl, and Baz Luhrmann's muse. Which is really funny. We learned the meaning of her name. Congratulations, beautiful. Which is just more reasons to drive Eleanor crazy.
The line's really cute when she's like, congratulations, beautiful. And Tahani's like, oh, thank you, Eleanor, you big flirt. That's a really cute line.
It is a cute line. And it's showing the chemistry underneath their prickliness once they just let that subside. Speaking of flirting, the next incarnation we get of Janet is while Michael is trying to show Chidi to be a newspaper journalist for The Good Place, and Janet is in overt sexuality mode. And the moment where she comes over to Chidi and is like, I've got something you could slip into, and Chidi just looks absolutely shocked, and Michael goes, no, Janet, no.
No.
Really, really funny.
Gotta love horny Janet.
Newspaper journalism just being another thing that's torture for Chidi, because it took him his whole life to write his book that he really didn't even finish.
What he needs.
Not going to work out well.
My favorite part of that whole scene, though, other than Janet and the got something you can slip into, is when it's before it, when Michael hands the hat and he's like, oh, give him the hat, give him the hat, give him the hat. Because he's like, oh, well, with the hat, he'll like it. He'll want to do it.
That's such a funny little moment. And the way that Ted Danson chooses to like do it in the middle of a line, or whether that was written that way, it just plays off really well. Good. Stream of consciousness for Michael. Good writing. I think I might have to add to my list of television foods that I want to try in some dreamscape being Tahani's butter scones.
Oh, they look so good.
Do you like scones? Have you had a scone?
I'm good with most baked goods. Sometimes I like them when they're not super desserty.
Like dry and powdery. Then you would like a scone because they're sweet and have fruit, but they're not like cakey or anything. Mm-hmm. Those butter scones look good.
When I lived overseas, I would frequent scone, as they called them there because they can't say English words correctly.
Right. I don't think it is an English word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Scones
it
are
is.
English, aren't they?
I don't know if the origin of the word is English.
What you got some Latin roots there in the word scone.
Yeah, I'm picking up on some
From the Greek
Portuguese.
scone to be dry and crispy.
Yeah, something the
course.
Greeks knew all about. Another hobby that doesn't work for Chidi, obviously, is welding. And this version of Janet...
Yeah, that was a big swing and a miss. Don't know where that one was coming from.
A big swing and a miss. And Janet now has gone into... How does he describe it? That now Janet is cruel and distant.
She's basically the new Velma.
She's just like snarky and
Yeah.
no, and you can't die. Watch, I'll blowtorch your face off to Chidi. It's really funny. And of course, Chidi, even though he's in the good place and he can't get hurt, he's just terrified of all this equipment. I probably would be too. I still wouldn't be bungee jumping in the afterlife.
Yeah, absolutely not. Chidi, then this is when he gets the stomach ache, right?
Right.
He starts feeling sick. This is where, he's talking about how terrible his, the manuscript was. He's like, oh, I'm sick. I got to do this.
It's when Michael starts getting mean because he tells him how boring his book was, how long it was. Maybe you shouldn't just go, because Chidi first says, I'm an academic. I want to work on this. This is what I want to do. And Michael's like, no, you can't do that. It's terrible. Michael
This
can
is a
read
good place. Do not do
the
that to yourself.
entirety of human literature in an hour, but it took him 2 weeks to read Chidi's book. That's really funny. Ted Danson obviously has some great line deliveries here. The part when he's talking about in Chidi's book when he says, part 2, of course, this means the exact opposite is also
could
true.
also be true. Yeah.
Really funny. Meanwhile, Tahani and Eleanor are bonding, but Eleanor isn't quite on the same wavelength as Tahani yet and starts snooping around her place after being fed up with her, wanting to get dirt, and finds her diary, which is just bad behavior. You don't take someone's diary.
That's bad behavior. She gets no gift from Santa this year.
It appears to be like a published version of Tahani's diary, so it might have just been public information anyway.
Yeah, I wish we could have at least seen like the foreword or gotten a page of that diary in this episode.
They should have published it. They published Barney Stinson's The Bro Code as a real book.
fair.
We should get Tahani's diary.
We need Tahani's diary.
I thought it was a cute moment in that scene when Tahani boops Eleanor's nose, and when she walks away, she like scrubs it off of her nose.
Yeah, that was adorable.
I thought that was really cute. A really cute moment also between Eleanor and Chidi. After this moment, they kind of touch base with each other. Chidi's feeling defeated, and Eleanor, even though she's doing it in her Eleanor way, when she's like, I'm super ethical now, she tells Chidi that you're a good teacher. And you shouldn't feel so bad about yourself because you're teaching me to be good, and maybe Michael doesn't know everything he's talking about.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that later in a really nice moment. But I just love how they're becoming this unlikely bond. It's really nice.
I love it too, and I like that Eleanor genuinely does really like Chidi. She thinks he's great. I mean, he's helping her, and she doesn't always want to take his advice, but she thinks, wow, this guy belongs in the good place. He's a good guy, and he's helping me. Like, that's great. He shouldn't be getting shat on by Michael. Like,
of course, in the same moment, though, she can't hide that she stole Tahani's diary, and the tree just catches on fire in flames. So Chidi's teaching Eleanor why this is wrong. We get the throwing sand bit and the vodka fire aside. That was really funny. And the one thing that struck me kind of weird in this episode was Chidi explaining to Eleanor, you wrote this note. Tahani didn't write the note. It's the universe manifesting a note to give to you. Like, sure, that kind of makes sense with everything else, but it's a note on paper. It could be true that somebody just wrote it.
yeah, I wouldn't have totally dismissed that idea either.
Chidi, trying to help Eleanor kind of see the light about Tahani, seeing that she's a good person, takes Eleanor back into her flashback where we learn she's kind of always had trouble with this because in the coffee shop, being bad and needing to be avoided, she's the type of person that's like, well, if you're going to say that's bad, then you've got to say Chick-fil-A is bad. And you've got to say,
no going to see the hockey team.
yeah, that's all bad. And she's right, but that's, I don't know, it's more indicative of how I don't know, I feel like in this world with Tahani, she has to she has to find what's beneath her, the ugliness beneath her, because she feels like just everything is ugly underneath it. So if you count one out, you're I don't know, if you don't do one thing because it's run by bad people, you're a hypocrite by doing anything else you're doing because it's also run by bad people.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I definitely know people that are on that side of thinking when it comes to stuff like that.
It's a nice moment when Eleanor kind of confides in Chidi about her insecurities and how she feels a certain way, and Chidi is able to show Eleanor there's a non-zero chance and almost a definite chance that Tahani feels the same way, has the same insecurities, is putting up a facade to hide hurt underneath, and it helps Eleanor finally see Tahani through a slightly different light.
Mm-hmm.
While also, I think this is the moment where Chidi, where Eleanor tells Chidi that Michael can't be right about everything. He can't be right about your book being the worst thing. He doesn't know everything because I'm here and I'm not supposed to be, and Michael doesn't know that. So he's not the smartest thing ever. Don't take his word above your own
gospel,
feeling that your thing is good. That was a really nice moment.
I like that too.
And weirdly, then Chidi asks Michael to be his advisor, and Michael is so sarcastic about, well, if what you really want me to do is talk shit about this awful book you wrote for all eternity, of course I'll do it. I just want you to be happy, he says.
And Chidi's like, that's what I want. So it was funny, though, them trying to throw it away, and Chidi's like, ugh. Which I get, that's 3,600 pages of your life, 18 years that you wrote. I wouldn't want to throw it away right away either, but it was for the best.
But Chidi probably had all of these insecurities already. So when someone who's this literal god figure in this world, that's all he needs. He was looking for any excuse to be like, you're right, all of my life's work was stupid.
Yeah.
But then it takes someone like Eleanor who can give him the alternate opinion. And Chidi's the type of person that says, well, then this means the exact opposite can also be true. Maybe it's the best thing that's ever been written.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment. And the nice moments continue because Eleanor goes back to Tahani's to return her diary and catches her crying.
Yeah, she's in tears. She's on the chaise lounge, head in hands. Poor the sad little Tahani.
She's in heaven, and she's crying.
Yeah, that's not good.
Because she's so lonely and so disconnected from the person that's supposed to be her soulmate. It's really funny. Eleanor knocks on the door, sees her crying, and says, do you want to talk about it? And Tahani says, desperately. Just so ready to talk, just hoping someone would ask.
Yeah.
And she unloads that she feels like she's with the wrong person and that there's something going on that isn't quite right and she doesn't quite know what it is. And of course Eleanor doesn't open up to her about not belonging there, but she does tell her, I understand what you're going through more than you think, and that sucks. And they share a really sweet hug.
A great hug. Cute
a really
hug.
Nice moment. I'm a little bit iffy on Eleanor saying and by the way, you've got a rockin' bod. Jianyu's not blind. I kind of think it would have been okay in this scene to just leave it at these two friends share this sweet moment. But they had to put in like one last little joke, and it was
I thought
weird
that it
was
fit
about
with
their
Eleanor's
body.
character.
You think so?
Yeah, because she's very attracted to Tahani.
The hugs keep coming because we go right to Chidi coming up and
this
giving Eleanor a hug.
This one was especially cute. I literally wrote down cute hugs because it was so just adorable.
Love a good hug.
The transition from the hug with Tahani and then to as soon as she wakes up being like started by Chidi and he hugs her.
Yeah.
And like hugs her tight and is like so proud of her. I think that's so sweet.
Eleanor saying, wow, people here are really into hugging. But it's because Chidi knows that Eleanor has taken a major change as we see that the Tahani tree is in full beautiful bloom, just like their friendship can now be since Eleanor opened her heart to Tahani and let Tahani in a little bit. It's a really nice moment, and I love that in a show that all we really care about on the surface is who wrote the note. Is Eleanor going to stay in the good place? We're focused on that. It tells a really, really sweet story about like not judging people off of their demeanor all the time and maybe learning a little bit about why they act the way they do before you write them off as a certain type of person. It's a really lovely story told here.
Yeah, it is.
The last couple of moments in the episode, Tahani suggests that Eleanor be Michael's assistant, which totally freaks out Eleanor. I love that in Kristen Bell's performance, as they're explaining, we want you to be the assistant. Yeah, she's just shaking her head no the whole time and says, "How could I say no?" A worse show would have Eleanor then go, "But no, really, how do I say no?" You know what I mean? Like a cheap second joke, but this is a better show than that, and she's stuck doing this. She's going to be the one literally helping Michael figure out what's going on in the neighborhood, which is her. It's going to be
her.
Torture for her. We also get self-help Janet here in the end.
Janet has been acting as my assistant. It's not what she was designed to do. It didn't go great.
But now I'm back to normal. It turns out that the best Janet was the Janet that was inside Janet all along.
She was feeling a little lost, so I gave her a self-help book to restore her confidence.
Now I'm living my truth and creating my bliss.
Yes.
So funny.
So Eleanor's stuck being Michael's assistant, basically the police against herself. It'll be interesting to see that dynamic on what Eleanor does to try to keep Michael away from her secret.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
How to lead him off the scent.
In the last scene, though, Eleanor comes home to find another note from this blackmailer character. And it's just kind of a, oh my God, again, another thing, give me a break moment. And it's for her to meet at night in the town square. And she meets in shock. It's not a manifestation of herself. It's Jianyu.
It's Jianyu.
And he can talk.
He says, he's been expecting you. You don't belong here. Admit it. And I love the switch.
Yes.
Where he goes from the very and then to out of nowhere, just like a very normal voice.
I'm really scared, dog.
I have no idea what's going on, dog.
It's a really funny moment, and finally we're about to the point of this show where we can talk about how insanely funny Manny Jacinto as who we'll still call Jianyu in this moment, how amazingly funny that character is and grows to be. And the show has been missing him these first 3 episodes.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait to get into the next one and really learn more about the legend that lies beneath the mask. That'll be fun.
I'm excited.
And that's how the episode ends. What do you think about it as opposed to the first 2 after having the conversation?
I think that this episode does different things than the first 2 do in terms of really taking its time and letting us know the characters without exposition, but actually just seeing them interact and learning about them that way. And I think this episode does a great job of continuing to set up the unraveling mystery that is The Good Place.
I'm really excited to get into it. We're kind of past the beginning to now I'm just excited to follow this story and go back on the roller coaster it's going to take us on. And to get, again, I got so much joy when this show was airing out of us reacting to it the night after. Mm-hmm. And it makes so much sense that now this is one of those shows that we're talking about this way. It's a cool full circle moment. I'm glad to be here. Into the time knife. Boom. It's fun.
Boom.
Well, that's this episode, Tahani Al-Jamil. I thought it was a great episode. I think it's a step up from the second episode because it is doing a good job at defining its non-Eleanor characters after focusing so much on Eleanor the first 2 episodes. Chidi really shines here. Janet really shines here. Tahani, of course, really shines here. And then at the end, the big reveal where Jianyu really shines in this episode, too.
Truly.
And that's where we'll leave it to step just briefly into Chidi's philosophy class.
Or should I do a different one this week?
No, I think you don't have to do it necessarily every time, but I think I want to just use that music every time. Thanks, Steven.
You're welcome. That's how we get here, from the time knife. We gotta musically travel.
This week, what inspired me to have a conversation here in Chidi's philosophy class is mainly the good versus evil conversation around this canceled coffee shop.
Yeah.
Because both things are true. If this coffee shop is so clearly run by like a bad dude, it makes sense why you would feel skeevy supporting that business. On the other hand, Eleanor's point, if you look to the depth of anything, you can probably find a reason to avoid it.
It's true.
Most anything. And it's a conversation that we've had recently on different podcasts talking about the art versus artist argument of when is it okay to, or is it okay to enjoy the output of a thing that is proven to be heinous if the output is good?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that? Do you think it's situational? Do you think there is a concise
I do think
yes
it's
and no?
situational.
Yeah.
I think that part of it is, like Eleanor's boyfriend says in this episode, there's plenty of other coffee shops you can go to. You know, now if I was a diabetic and I could only have one brand of insulin and the guy who made that insulin brand was racist, I wouldn't want to use it, but I would need it for my life.
You need
I
to
think
live.
there's
Yeah.
and it's a sliding scale between those two, right? Like in some instances, like I'll say I work 30 feet from Jimmy John's, so it's really easy on my break to go to Jimmy John's to get food. But the Jimmy John himself is a poacher,
Yeah,
and I
right.
don't like that. So I stopped going to Jimmy John's, and now I walk, 5 times as far, still not super far, but go to Subway, which we know Subway has not always had the best spokespeople in here, but they did cut ties with the diddler that they had.
It wasn't
so,
the company's fault. It was the guy's fault.
Yeah, so I do that every day, as a change. I don't eat Chick-fil-A. I go to Popeyes instead, But I do, still have Kanye West songs in my playlists. And
then, if you dug deep enough into the history of Popeyes, Popeyes is owned by the same company that owns Burger King. I'm sure there's some bad tyrants in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it's a really hard line to draw. How can you actively make the good choice of avoiding things like that while not being eaten alive by the hypocrisy in your other actions that are doing the same thing, kind of?
Yeah.
Like, how can you feel good about not going to the bad sandwich shop? And also
anytime you drive a
listen to your
car,
Kanye West
you're
song? Right.
supporting and adding to a terrible problem for the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I gotta work. I gotta get to work. You
Yeah.
know. So it's I think it is a sliding scale. I think that places where we can, not support people that do bad things, we should. But also, if I want something and I want it in 24 to 48 hours, I will be using Amazon to send it to me.
Maybe the right thing somewhere lies around, if you get and enjoy your spicy deluxe Chick-fil-A sandwich, maybe also make a donation to an LGBT
of equal or higher
greater
value. Yeah.
amount.
Send that
doesn't
$5.97 to the.
That
Planned
doesn't
Parenthoods.
it doesn't negate that you're supporting the bad company, but maybe the right thing to do is to be mindful of where your money is going and to to spread your wealth or whatever you have to places that need it, that you don't necessarily need anything from them.
Yeah.
Along with enjoying your Kanye West tweets or whatever you've got in your playlist, Steven. Well, that's it. That's GD's philosophy class. Let us know what you guys think about this topic. Email us, TimeKnifePod. Let us know what you think about this. The art versus artist debate, the Chick-fil-A debate. Where are you feeling about it these days? Interesting. As we wrap up this week's show, the next thing to talk about is who, based off of this episode, Tahani Al-Jamil, is getting into the good and bad place. We always start with the bad place. Why don't you start it off this time?
Okay, I'll hit you with it, Zach. I've got a double good place, double bad place this week.
I do too.
Heyo! My bad place this week is going to be Michael for putting Chidi through all those terrible, stressful things and being rude about his life's work. And John, you for being able to talk this whole fucking time and letting Tahani, who's just trying to build a connection, be so sad.
My bad place is Michael and Jianyu, exactly.
Yeah.
Michael really puts Chidi down on his life's work when if we're in this world where there are answers to all the questions, then what's the point of putting him down for just following his bliss and doing the thing that gives him joy? Let him write his bad book. And Jianyu, of course, we see Tahani cry, and we see how broken up she is about the lack of connection she feels to her supposed soulmate. So Jianyu has got some splaining to do about that one.
Yeah,
Good place.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Let's see if we line up on both.
My good place was the antithesis to my bad place. Chidi and Tahani are my good places, because
Okay.
Chidi, even through going through all that shit, is still trying to be a good person. He still wants to get these thoughts out on philosophy to help the world. He still's helping Eleanor. He had the sweetest little hug moment with Eleanor. And Tahani, because she is trying to genuinely help the neighborhood. She's going through a tough time at home, but she's still trying to be light and sunshine for everyone around her, and I think that's really special.
And smiling and helping in spite of like the
yeah,
pain
and sure,
she's
she can
feeling.
be a little British and a little condescending, but that's okay.
My good place is not the same as yours. Tahani is one of them, just because Tahani's got a big cross that she's bearing in her relationship drama, and she is choosing to channel that energy into helping others, which is just incredible. And I let Eleanor get a pass this
Nice.
episode. I think the bad that she does in this is mostly a catty arguing kind of bad.
Yeah.
And she learns a really big lesson and opens up to someone in a way that was not possible when she was alive, both with Chidi and with Tahani.
Yeah.
So I let Eleanor get a pass this week. Eleanor and Tahani.
Nice. I do want to give a couple brief words from one of our patrons that wrote in today.
Okay.
Lil says, "Hey, return of the Mac. Lil, return of the Mac. Lil." So thanks,
Did you
Lil,
come
for
up
writing
with that,
in.
or did they write it?
It's written in. I don't know
Yeah,
if the
it's
Lil
written
was
in.
supposed to be shouted like that, but I'm trying to do my best. Lil basically says they're happy to be rewatching the show, listening to us. They like rewatching this show, knowing the things they know now, because they've been picking up on little things that they don't think they would have realized if it was their first time watching, which I totally agree with. They go on to say they love Darcy Carden as Janet. She's so silly, goofy. Where's the beef? Fun fact, Janet is me. Also goes on to talk about how much they love Eleanor's facial expressions and the little details throughout this episode.
Oh, sure.
She's putting two and two together, and her face is the best way to tell. They do say, though, that Tahani is their least favorite of all of them. But that's
Whoa,
probably the
what?
point. Even with how they show how shitty Eleanor was in her living life, I can stand her more than Tahani. I want to give her rabies. Maybe it's
Yikes.
because she's a little British. Wow, beef with Tahani.
I think Lil's just going through the same thing Eleanor's going through.
Yeah.
There's some type of attraction underneath that you need to get into instead of the negativity.
Lil says that they are cheaty, just not exactly as smart, but the anxiety, can't make decisions, scared of almost everything. Ding, ding, ding. That's Lil 101. They're excited for more John Yu. He is one of their faves. And they also have one more thing to say, that they maybe should have made Tahani and Eleanor lesbians. That could have been an interesting angle. Not
I mean,
opposed.
we've already complimented The Good Place for being willing to have gay people.
Yeah, I'm here
Maybe
for
these
it.
two people that aren't with their actual soulmates could find each other.
Hey, that's the love story of the century.
A lot of show left.
Sent from my exploding plant phone.
Nice.
Nice.
Thanks for sending that in. And anyone, if you want to send us in some trivia, your good place, bad place on each episode, or just any thoughts you have for us or on the episode, timeknifepod@gmail.com. We'll read them out when we can on the show. And if you're a patron, if you throw us a little extra scratch, we'll read your email.
Toss us them little exploding growing love plants. Give us a scone or two.
Steven, we've done it. The third episode of Into the Time Knife, I think, has been a success. I've had fun. Have you had fun?
I've had a dandy doozy time, Zach.
I think we made it out relatively unscathed.
Yeah. I'm not on. I think our bush is a little less burny.
I did realize that I did take a bullet at some point during the podcast today, and I'm just now noticing that I'm bleeding from this shoulder a lot, but I feel fine.
Yeah, well, that's good. Everything is fine, Zach.
Everything is fine, and it's even better when I'm with you and all of our listeners.
Oh, look at the flowers growing on that plant there.
Okay, we're going to be back next week to talk about the fourth episode. The episode's titled a name that we haven't heard before. Jason Mendoza is
Who's
the
that?
name of the next episode of The Good Place. And let's cut off with the spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear spoilers, get out of here. Jason Mendoza's coming.
Jason's finally here. Thank God. I love Jason. He is one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite parts of the show. I think that his performance is just so funny.
Funny.
And, you know, I think that it was kismet that it's Jason time because the Jaguars just won a playoff game again yesterday.
That's true. I'm saying that's true. I did not know that. I'm saying that I agree with you and it's true. I wouldn't have never known that. But
Hey,
go Jags.
Go Jags, I guess.
Very excited about that. Was a spoiler. People can hear us talk about the Jaguars until
Yeah.
later in the series. Not a lot to point out spoiler wise in this episode, other than the continued proof that this is the bad place.
Yeah,
and it should
Michael
have been.
has a specific moment in this episode that
Which one?
I don't know how I didn't catch this the first couple times watching the show. When Chidi goes oh my god, I have such a stomachache. Michael literally puts his hand in front of his mouth of excitement because he's so happy that Chidi's feeling this way, and you can't hide that.
It's so fun to go back and watch these moments because somehow I don't know how they did it, but this show pulled off. We did not expect it.
Yeah,
And it should have been so obvious. And in hindsight, it's as clear as day.
Well, and this is
they're all being tortured. Tahani
Yeah.
is being tortured. Jianyu/Jason is being tortured. Chidi is being tortured. And Eleanor is being tortured.
Well, and I don't remember exactly how much Michael knows at this time of what's going on, but he's also trying to kind of separate Chidi and Eleanor because Chidi is trying to help Eleanor be a better person, and that's
you're
not
right.
good for anyone.
He knows everything that's going on.
So him
He's
trying to put Chidi in all these other places is so clever.
Give him a hobby to keep him
torture
busy.
and
Give him
separating
something
them.
else, go into cartography and just explore the wide
Yeah.
reaches and stay away from your soulmate. Yeah.
Imagine some of the tortures that Michael had planned for Chidi if he was just in this expansive wilderness.
That would have been fun. And what I loved
Yeah.
about this show is that it throws out those ideas and you can get so much from those ideas, but sometimes the show doesn't even have time to really get into them. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
And that was a really funny one. Any
It's
other
great.
spoilery stuff you want to mention?
Not really from this one. I think
Yeah.
that was the big thing was just Michael and Jason.
Well, I'm excited. I'm getting already more excited to follow all of the twists and turns of The Good Place again. It's been a lot of fun.
It's so hard to wait a week before
It
talking
is hard.
about the next one. Yeah.
Just like the old days, it was so hard to wait another week for the next episode because I
Yeah.
want to watch it now.
It's giving me all those same feelings again, Zach.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Next week, we'll be back, so please tune in next Monday. If you like the show, please share it. Please review it wherever you listen to your podcast. Steven, where can the people find us on social media?
If you want to slip into our good place, make sure you
I know a
you
place
follow us over on
all of you can slip into, and it is our Twitter.
make sure you go follow us on Twitter over at Time Knife Pod. We're also
Yeah.
on Instagram if you want to take a little peep at our neepers, whatever that means. We're also on YouTube. Look up the full name of the show, Time Knife Pod. Make sure you look up the full name of the show on YouTube, Into the Time Knife, to see our smiling faces on the internet.
This has been a lot of fun. We'll be back next week, and everyone remember to water your friendship plant. Steven, get us out of here.
From inside the Time Knife, Black Lives Matter.
I'm Zach,
I'm Steven.
and we will see you next time.
Oh, tea and crumpets!